This video will show the conservation planner how to complete the CPA 52 from CART in FY 2022. Of course, the purpose of the video is to show planners how to complete the CPA 52 in CART. And here's the steps we're going to go through as we do that. We will complete the CART assessment, and I've already done that for this plan we'll be looking at. We'll complete the SEC survey in CART, and that's also been done. We're going to use a spreadsheet to determine the effects of the practices that we have scheduled. Then we're going to paste our CART results into that spreadsheet, and then we'll copy and paste the spreadsheet results into the CD environmental evaluation. So if we look at CD, we have this practice schedule up. In this situation, there is a 2 land units. One is a pasture land unit and one is an associated ag land unit. The producer's interested in doing some pasture type practices, and there's also a little degradation in the stream, and the producer's interested in establishing a riparian forest buffer in the associated ag land field to help protect the stream. Normally we would, once we have those practices planned, we would evaluate those with our environmental evaluation. I'll show you how that works. If we go into the environmental evaluation, of course, the first page with this latest release of CD and CART is where we would record the client objectives and the need for action. Our next step would be to record the resource concerns. And this latest version, they have put some things in there where that you'll see the resource concerns that were assessed in the CART assessment. So only the resource concerns that were assessed with the CART assessment are going to show up there. And this is where we would enter our existing conditions, the effects of no action, and the planned action alternative effects. However, in this release of CD, this information is not automatically populated or brought over from CART, and the planner would have to, for each one of these resource concerns, document the existing conditions, the effects of no action, and the planned action alternative. And they could do that by just clicking on this pencil here and describing the existing conditions, the effects of no action, and the planned action alternative, and then saving that information. However, this requires a lot of work on the planner to actually come up with narratives to document each of these parts of the environmental evaluation. So what I have done is I have created a spreadsheet that will actually determine those effects for you, give you some narratives that you can actually use to copy and paste into these different text boxes here to document that information. So I'm going to cancel this, and we'll go back to the plan, and I'll open the spreadsheet and we'll kind of show you how the spreadsheet works. First of all, we want to determine what practices that the client is planning for these areas. There's several ways to do that. Maybe you have a list of the practices you've planned, but probably the easiest way is just to click on the Create Edit Practices. Since I actually recorded those practices in CART when I was doing that, it actually put them into CD as draft practices. So if I click on the practices, it will show which practices are planned in this practice schedule. And this is the first bit of information we'll need to actually enter into the spreadsheet. So if I open up the spreadsheet now, you'll see that, I'm going to go ahead and make it full size. You'll see that this allows me to enter those practices into this grid to determine what practices he's going to do out there. There's also some typical practices that are recorded that if I want to select, for example, one of these systems, then I can just click the Select Practices button. So I can either select practices manually, or in this case, he's doing similar to this typical list of practices. So I'm going to click the Select Practices of the typical, so it actually puts those in there. Also, once you've got a list of practices, if you want to change these for your particular area, you can just select a list of practices and save it as a typical 1 or typical 2 or typical 3. Also, if you'll notice, if we go back and look at our practices, we have the prescribed grazing, we have the fence, we have a watering facility, we have a livestock pipeline, we have a heavy use area protection. In this case, we have forage and biomass planting in this typical one, and that is not in our list. So I'm going to delete the forage and biomass planting. And we also have nutrient management and pest management conservation system. But we also have an additional practices that's not listed here, and that is the riparian forest buffer. So I'm just going to put it, I could either put it down here at the bottom, or since I deleted that one, I'm going to put it in the place of the forage and biomass planting. So I'm going to scroll down and select the riparian forest buffer. A little tricky there to there's my riparian forest buffer. So I have the practices in my alternative in my spreadsheet match the practices in my list of practices for that practice schedule. So once I've done that, then I would just click on this Show Effects button. It will take me to the results page and show the effects of these planned practices that I have here. And it shows the effects of each of those practices for all the different resource concerns that we might be running into out there. So you can see it populates the effects of those practices based on the particular practices that you have selected. So that is a good thing. It gives us these effects. But notice that the no action and the existing conditions are not populated. And again, we would have to enter those information into this environmental evaluation and CD. But we can actually bring some of this information over to the spreadsheet by going into cart in CD. So I'm going to go back to CD. I'm going to open up the assessment that I've already done for this this practice schedule. Takes a little time to open the cart assessment. And you can see that I have completed the resource concerns, I've completed all the information about the assessment. I've also completed the SEC survey, but we're not going to look at that. We'll get into that later. But where I want to go with this is I'm going to go click on the results tab, and it brings up the results for the actual plan roll-up, and you can see the different results here. And what I'm going to do with this information is I'm going to click right at the category name, and I'm just going to highlight all the way down to the last number on the last row of the table. Then I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to copy that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet, and you'll see that, here's all my effects of all those practices. And we have an import cart data button, and I'm going to click that. When I do that, it copies the information that we copied in CART results and pasted it in this spreadsheet. So if you'll look, you see some things that are not assessed, some things that are assessed. And if you wanted to fine tune this for your particular results, I'm going to click on this hide not assessed. And when I do that, it only shows the resource concerns that I've assessed in CART. Now, if we go back, and I'm going to go ahead and close CART, we're done with it. I'm going to go back to this environmental evaluation. And again, we've already recorded the objectives, needs, and alternatives. So I'm going to go next, and it brings up the particular resource concerns that I've assessed. And again, we looked at bank erosion. We would have to document the existing conditions, the effects of no action, and the planned action alternative. And what the spreadsheet is good for is, if you look at this, you see this list of resource concerns in the spreadsheet matches the resource concerns that you'll see in the environmental evaluation. So I can actually use this information to populate the information on the environmental evaluation. So the first thing I'm going to do is the existing conditions. You can see that that goes here. So I'm going to click in this cell, and I'm just going to copy that cell, and then I can come up here and paste that content into that text box. I'm going to click on the no action. In this case, I've got to determine as a planner what's going to happen if there's no action. And since this is not being met at the current time, I would suspect that the resource is going to continue to be degraded. So I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to paste it in there. And then I would come over here, and these are the effects. So I'm going to copy that and paste it into there. And then I will save that. So now it shows that the CART results show not met. The existing conditions was 25. There was no existing practices, and the threshold was 50, so it wasn't met. And with no action, there's probably going to be a continued resource degradation. And these are the things that will happen, or these are the effects of the practices that we identified. Fences, if those the stream is fenced off. Also with watering facilities, the cattle won't have to drink out of the stream, and putting a riparian forest buffer next to the stream, the roots of that vegetation will help to make it more resistant to water flow. So those are the effects of this particular practice schedule on bank erosion. And you would just continue that process. If you look at classic gully erosion, let's go down and look at our spreadsheet. The next one is classic gully erosion. I'm going to select the existing condition, and you can also just hit Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste. Then I would go down to the effects of no action, and it's currently not a resource concern, so I copy it and paste it. And then, of course, the last thing is the planned practice effects. So I'm going to copy that and paste it there and save. So this gives me a detailed analysis of the practices, the effects that they're going to have on the individual resource concerns. So I would continue in that manner, populating all the entire list of resource concerns with information from the spreadsheet here that shows the different resource concerns, the different effects of those resource concerns. If we go back to our, once this is all completed, if we go to our next part of the CPA 52, which is the special environmental concerns, it is already populated from the SEC survey in CART. And also we could go to our human considerations, human and economic considerations. And again, these are similar to the resource concerns. We could edit one of those. If you'll look at the spreadsheet, there is information about the human and social considerations here. There's really not the existing conditions or no action is pretty much going to have to be determined by the planner. And, it may be something like 60 acres of pasture is my existing condition. Effects of no action, there's probably not going to be any change of the land use. However, with the planned action alternative, I can click on this land use. I'm going to hit copy and paste that here. It's going to say that some land may be taken out of production to establish riparian forest buffers. Here I could go in and type in maybe 2 acres of land is going to be taken out of production to establish the riparian forest buffers. And again, that will populate there. You can do other ones too. Let's just look at, say, let's look at the labor one. The existing condition, client is the sole source of labor. Effects of no action, no change, or maybe there may be more labor requirements due to no action. So you could, document that. And then again, if you looked at the planned action alternative, if we scroll down to labor and we copy that cell and paste it in here, then we hit save. And basically, there may be a moderate increase due to moving the cattle in a grazing schedule, and some pest management activities such as scouting may require more labor. So you can use the spreadsheet to document both the resource concerns and the human, economic, social considerations here. Once we have, fully populated this, again, the SEC concerns are based on the SEC survey, and we could populate our resource concerns using the spreadsheet to document all of those individual resource concerns. The key thing is that these resource concerns that were copied from CART will match the resource concerns that show up in the environmental evaluation part of CD. So that's the way that this can be used. Of course, there will probably be more improvements to the environmental evaluation in Conservation Desktop. At this point, there's no way to print this information out, but hopefully that will be coming soon where you can actually print your CPA 52 from CD directly. So that just gives you a demonstration of how you can use this spreadsheet to calculate the effects to save you a lot of trouble and having to come up with these individual narratives or documenting the existing conditions, the effects of no action, and the planned action alternative. So hopefully that'll help you to streamline the process of completing your CPA 52 in CART and with the environmental evaluation part.